Well, coming up on today's show, Rivian follow the pickup truck with an electric SUV, Chargepoint raised $240 million for expansion, and the Lincoln Aviator lands. And it's got some very potent plug-in power. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, in fact, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily for Thursday, 29th of November 2018. My name is Martyn Lee, and I've been through every EV story I can find today, so you don't have to. Thank you to myev.com, as always, for helping make this show. If you are curious about buying or selling used EVs, that's the place to go, and to learn about them as well. And talking about that kind of thing on myev.com, they just posted a brand new article titled Taking Charge of Your Electric Vehicle. The nation's network of public EV charging stations is expanding, and it's making the idea of a cross-country trip running solely on battery power a reality. From every type of charger to the various networks and their costs, it's a great intro to charging. You know what? I'm going to throw in the link to myev.com in the show notes if you're interested in that or any of the other articles that they publish. I realised yesterday I've been putting a lot of the miscellaneous notes or follow-up comments at the start of the show rather than getting into the news. So, news first today, and that at the end of it, I've got some big news about a buddy of mine at the LA Auto Show, two exec producers of the show on Patreon who just came to London and said hi, and more. First with the news then, Rivian revealed its R1T electric pickup truck to the world yesterday, and now today they've unveiled another one. But not a pickup truck. This is the R1S SUV. I mentioned this briefly yesterday, but now we've got full details. Now, these two vehicles, the truck and the SUV, essentially the same vehicle, on the same platform, on the same skateboard design. So, again, three different choices of battery, four motors, one on each wheel, air suspension, all the spec the same, essentially the same, but with different bodies on top of the architecture. It means the same acceleration and long-range figures apply to the SUV, even though its shape is very different from the truck. According to Autoblog, it's clear that Rivian was going for a boxy look with the off-road capable flavour. Think something like a bit of a squarer Range Rover rather than kind of a swoopy Model X. Interior styling is identical to the truck. The SUV has 7 seats, going 2 in the front, 3 and 2. Compared to the pickup truck's 5 seats, and from what we can tell with the pictures online, the floor does look completely flat, by the way. That should lend itself to impressive passenger room and moving about as well, and folding those seats flat for some big space for luggage, even sleeping in the back, possibly. The floor looks like it could perhaps even have the seats taken out, and then you're talking basically having like a mini van to move things with. 0 to 60, again, ridiculous, 3 seconds. The highest power figure actually comes from the medium battery size. The smallest battery probably doesn't have enough juice to get out of it quick enough. And the big battery, 180 kilowatt hour batteries, probably too heavy, so actually the fastest speeds come from that middle-sized battery pack, 754 horsepower. Prices will start at $72,500 before incentives, but you've got to wait till 2020, and that is for the cheapest, lowest range one, which won't be on sale to begin with. Think $90,000 and you're in the right ballpark for the ones they'll release first. Both pickup and SUV arriving at the same time, by the way. Fred at Electric points out that with the R1S, you don't have... R1S. You don't have a flatbed on the back, or as one of my listeners pointed out, don't call it a flatbed, because that is, again, I'm mixing... It's a language barrier, right? So in the US, you would say the pickup bed. You don't have a pickup bed rather than flatbed, but you do gain a third row for the 7 passengers. The specs are virtually the same. The R1S, though, is a little shorter, actually, less overhang, and doesn't have all the utility vehicles of the pickup truck. The links to those stories in the show notes if you want to read more, and it's been a big week for Rivian, and talked about them a lot on the podcast. How do you charge up your EVs, though, when you've got them? One of those networks is ChargePoint in the US, and they've just raised some mega money for big expansion. None of your $10 million here or there. For this announcement, $240 million has been raised in a new funding round from a diverse group of investors from the automotive sector, the energy sector, financial, venture capital, utilities, and yes, even oil and gas industries investing in EV charging. According to TechCrunch, ChargePoint, which is the designer and developer and manufacturer of hardware and software for charging EVs, has raised more than $500 million now to build out its own network. VentureBeat point out that the company was founded 11 years ago in California in 2007, and Chargepoint now among the biggest EV charging networks in the world. They've got 57,000 charging spots across North America, Europe, Australia. Only a few months back, Google Maps started displaying EV charging stations, if you remember us talking about that on the podcast. Not every network is included, but Tesla superchargers are, and yes, Chargepoint stations are in the US, amongst other providers. Here in the UK, for instance, it'll show you the Polar Network chargers on Google Maps now. Just one of the numerous moves that should help raise EV's profile, being on Google Maps, and Chargepoint at the centre of it all. Those two articles linked through, as always, in the show notes. Another car now, talking about the LA Auto Show, which is on this week, and another big hunk of metal that won't be cheap, but boy oh boy will it be ominous when it rolls down the road in silence if you are on electric power. After showing the prototype at the New York Auto Show earlier this year, Lincoln is opening the door on the production model of the 2020 Aviator. It's got a gas and a plug-in variant coming soon, and its debut was at the LA Auto Show this week, according to Eric Gurres from Motor1.com. He says that in general, everything is just oversized. It's a big SUV. It's got big wheels, and big wheel wells, and big doors, and big windows. You get the picture I'm painting. Inside, the passenger and the driver's seats are huge. They're like armchairs. They're nicer than the chairs that I have to watch telly here. You could literally live in this thing. It's gorgeous. They're jam-packed with adjusters, and massagers, and heaters, and coolers. And a lazy boy has nothing on these two front seats. For more performance, though, the Aviator goes beyond gas and reaches for electric, offering a plug-in hybrid powertrain. It does have a twin turbocharged engine in the Grand Touring model, but then it couples that with electric power for 450 brake horsepower, 600 pounds-feet of torque. Now, Lincoln hasn't released the pricing, nor has it said when its newest CUV will hit showrooms, but it's a very impressive car, and you'll definitely see one of these coming. And from that to this. Yes, this podcast covers all things great and small, and let's get small. In fact, let's get really small with the Volkswagen E-Up. If you haven't seen one of these, and you're listening in a country around the world that has big cars, you'd probably laugh at this. We do like him in the UK, though. Mark Kane at Inside EVs says that the most recent price cuts on the now aging VW E-Up has finally spread throughout Europe, and now it's hit the UK, where it is getting a £3,250 value boost. Let me explain what they mean by that. The E-Up is £3,000 cheaper, but it's had more equipment added to the standard model, like height adjustment for the seat and a rear view camera, as well as new seat trim design. They say, ooh, get you, which provides extra EV flair when you're in a very small car. Still costs £19,615 on the road price. That's the recommended price after you take off £3,500 free government money for the plug-in car grant. It's got a tiddler of a battery, 18.7 kilowatt hours. I thought our Renault Zoe was small at 22. Does 83 miles of range on the new WLTP test cycle on a good day with the wind behind you if it's not too cold. I'll put a link to that article in the show notes. It's an interesting little car from VW. It's nice that they have lowered the price and that it's still for sale. It's not a car that anyone's really going to obsess over and really desire, but as a small city car to do your errands, like our Zoe, it sits out there, and every morning it's at 100%, and we poodle around in it, and we do all our jobs and our chores, and they're all done on electric miles. So it's good for that. Moving on, the Nissan Leaf has got a big bit of news announced around it today. Nissan's working with a company called Fermata Energy. They're a vehicle-to-grid systems company. Nissan North America today just launched a brand new pilot program under what they're calling the Nissan Energy Share Initiative. Now, that uses the bidirectional, the two-way EV charging technology that comes with the Nissan Leaf, because they use the CHAdeMO plug, which means you can do it bidirectionally, and they're actually going to use that to partially power their headquarters in North America. That's in Franklin, Tennessee, and their design center, which is in San Diego, California. Now, the Nissan Energy Share pilot program, what it's going to do is they're going to continuously monitor the building's electrical loads. When they do that, they're looking for opportunities to draw on the Nissan Leafs that are plugged in the parking lot downstairs to get lower cost energy and power the buildings during very expensive, high demand periods. And if you are in the business of commercially supplying electricity and commercially buying electricity for big buildings, you'll know that these small differences can make a big difference to your P&L at the end of the year. Get those energy costs down, maybe plugging into your employees' cars. This constant monitoring, they call it demand charge management. And if they get it right, it could result in significant electric savings. And the secondary benefit, of course, it reduces the burden on peak loads on the local utilities. Plus, I imagine there'll be a kickback for if you own a Nissan Leaf and you plug it in, there's got to be something in it for you as well, of using a bit of your battery. Well, the Nissan Energy Share program is using the Leafs as a test of both technology and the business model. They're trying to work out, how does this stack up? How do we make money? How do we save money? How do the owners make money? Nissan and Fermata Energy are going to be looking at outcomes for commercialization. You know what? I haven't thus far ever made contact with Fermata Energy. They're a vehicle-to-grid systems company, and it's the next thing I do when I finish recording. I'm going to drop them a note to say, hello, I have a wildly unpopular podcast. I joke, of course. Mildly unpopular these days, and we should get them on the show sometimes. It'd be amazing to get another vehicle-to-grid company on the show. I'm moderately obsessed with V2G, and I know Elon says, look, it's just not on the radar at the moment. It's just nothing that he sees as being an important part. But I don't know, just something in the back of my brain just keeps going with this technology, and I'd like to talk to somebody more about it on one of our Saturday special shows. Leave it with me. Right, final story today, Automobili Pininfarina, which I think is probably how you have to say that every time you say that name. It isn't at the LA Auto Show, but the Italian-German car maker didn't want to skip the festivities of revealing new cars, so they have done. From their headquarters in Munich, execs have been showing off at least the rear aspect of the forthcoming PF0. Now, the PF0 from Automobili Pininfarina is genuine carbon fibre now. They've made one, not just drawings anymore. According to Jonathan Ramsey at Autoblog, first impressions are of the back of this thing a humongous giant diffuser. And then they've sort of attached some car to it, but you're mostly buying a diffuser. Have you seen the new Formula E car, the Batman car? I had a look around one of those a couple of months ago, a little video put on YouTube, and that is basically a massive diffuser with some car attached to it. Don't be surprised, though, that they need to try and stick it to the ground somehow. Almost 2,000 horsepower, 1,700 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 under 2 seconds, top speed over 220 miles per hour, and you need some air management with that. You need to suck it down and push it down as well. I didn't quite get a look on these pictures of the all these hypercars have movable bits of bodywork now to try and stick the cars to the ground. And look, if you need to ask what it costs, you can't afford one. But they're coming. They've sold 75% of the North American allocation. Now they're doing a European tour to find some more buyers. Right, so on to the notes at the end of the show. Then that was the news, and what I would have normally mentioned at the beginning, but the news was starting later and later. So that's the news, and if you're interested in these bits, stick around. Firstly, hello to Brian and Sherry. They arrived in the UK today, and the first thing they did was come to London and come to EV News Daily headquarters. They have come from California. They're both Tesla owners. They are executive producers of the podcast as well on Patreon at patreon.com/EVNewsDaily. And Brian popped me a note last week to say, hey, we're flying into the UK next week. Have you got 5 minutes? I've got all the time in the world. We spent about an hour just chatting about EVs, Teslas. Their Model 3 is a year old now, so they were not only day one reservation holders, but like minute one because they were existing owners. So that's going to be this weekend's Saturday special. It's about 15-20 minutes. I sat down and I hit record on the microphones and had a chat for part of our conversation, and I don't think I need to edit it too much because it's just us having a chat about EVs and their experience over the years with Chevy Volts and all these kind of things. So I'll put that on Saturday, and you can hear what we were talking about. It's a really interesting chat with two super EV evangelists, supporters of this show, and currently enjoying some of the lovely London rain. Talking of which, tomorrow in London, I'm going to go see, if you're in the UK, you'll know Jordan from My Energy and the Zappy product and little hashtag Happy Zappy. as everyone always is when they use one. And if you use a My Energy product, or you've heard of them, they are doing a thing. I probably can't say anymore. They're doing a thing in London. And I'm going to go along with the microphones and get some stuff for the podcast. But I can't say what the thing is because I don't know how. When this will go out, this podcast, in a few hours' time, and it'll technically publish before their thing, and I won't say any more, but I'll bring you coverage of that. Looking forward to saying hi to a few of the gang as well. Finally, my buddy on LinkedIn, Thomas Doran, who has hooked me up in the past before with the Saturday Special interviewees, for instance, and is at the LA Auto Show at the moment. Has been sending me pictures, and I think the best ones he's sent me are of the Byton stand. And it just looks beautiful. The Byton cars, they really do design a very, very nice car. But he's been pinging me pictures. He's been walking around. So I'll bring you the summary of those later in the week on the podcast. And later in the week, we'll answer your question of the week. On Sunday night, as always, we read out your answers to question of the week. So you've got until Sunday to get yours in this week. And it's this: how can we solve the problem of people parking in charging bays? What do we do about it? You can put your answer on the feedback section of myev.com. Click on research at the top of the page and then question of the week. And you can put your answer on their forums, because there's not a forum on my blog, but there is on theirs. You can answer it there. You can do it on the YouTube or Facebook or email, which is hello@evnewsdaily.com, which is the address to use for anything. If you just want to email the show and say, hello, I listen, then email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. There are 121 patrons of the show supporting us at patreon.com/evnewsdaily. If you're wondering what it's all about, follow the link and go and check it out. I explain it all on there if you wanted to be one of the supporters of this show, to spread the word to thousands of people every day around the world who are wondering what all of this EV malarkey is all about. There are 310 previous shows online for free. It's not going to be too long before we do the 1 year anniversary. I've been making them every day. And if you want to, you can subscribe for free. Get the podcasts from wherever you get your podcasts from. You can subscribe, which means you get them first and automatically, and for free as well. If you can do one thing for me, I'm just desperate for publicity. And so if you can share this with somebody, if you know somebody who's into EVs, or you know someone who owns a Tesla, or is on the waiting list for a Tesla, or you know someone who's super curious about electric cars, send it on. Bung them a message, send them an IM, send them an email, put it on a forum or something and say, hey, have you heard about this podcast? And, you'll be making me so happy. I'm basically just desperate for more people to hear this show as we spread the word and convert more people. We're all doing our own little bit in this move towards sustainable transports. Thank you very much, as always, for catching up on the socials. If you have done, Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.